Here we are again.
Welcome everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson along with Blair Cartwright. I guess we're having special editions, special reports every day. When does it stop? But really,
It's
the train
crazy.
got moving. The train's been moving. We've been talking about it. And we talked yesterday, Blair, after that debacle against Notre Dame, that somebody's head's probably going to roll. I thought the most likely thing would be the defensive coordinator or somebody on that side of it. But Sam Pittman, the time has come. We said yesterday this is the last season. It's a matter of now academics, timing. When does that get announced? A day after the Razorbacks get destroyed on national television in embarrassing fashion, Sam Pittman has been relieved of duties, fired by Hunter Yurachek, received an email about an hour ago from the university stating that brief message really that Pittman's out. Offensive coordinator, former Arkansas head coach Bobby Petrino in as the interim head coach. And oh, by the way, he's one of the candidates in the national coaching search that they talked about in this press release. We're going to talk about other candidates. Are there really any other candidates? Is Bobby Petrino really the next in line, and it's just a matter of getting through the season? Are they really paying attention to wins and losses at this point, or just how the team responds to him? Those kinds of things. What about negotiated buyouts? What the buyout looks like as far as we know based on the contract? All kinds of stuff to talk about, Blair. Yes. I am not shocked by this. We said yesterday if this was the decision and they started with Sam Pittman, that would be no surprise. We could understand if they waited a bit later, even to the end of the year, but no surprise that it's happened now. And as far as I see it, and obviously no surprise that Bobby Petrino is your interim head coach.
I'm a little bit surprised. I got to be honest. I thought maybe Travis Williams would be ousted as defensive coordinator. You'd make a change there. Obviously, you would wait until the buyout lowers, which is 3 weeks away, just to save a little money. But wow, to immediately fire Pittman and then elevate Petrino. But in all honesty, I don't know who else on this staff you would elevate the head coach. Yeah. I don't think you could sell Travis Williams as the interim head coach after the defensive performances of the last 3 weeks. So I'm a little surprised it happened as quickly as it did. And I'm also surprised that it didn't leak out until the release, prior to the release being issued today. Because usually, as you know, in Arkansas, people talk. There are always rumors. I don't think anyone saw this coming as quickly and quietly as it did.
Yeah, I'm actually not surprised that it didn't leak out. I'll tell you why. You're fresh off. You're 24 hours basically since, well, not even 24 hours since the game ended.
Yes.
And so they moved pretty quickly. I think had it taken into Monday, I think you'd probably, and that's how we found out was press release. And the first we're hearing of it, then I might agree with you. But I think because we got a Sunday early in the day decision, this thing moved pretty quickly. I don't know how many phone calls could have been had to leak it out. I take your point with respect, but I'm not that surprised by it. Okay. And I'm not surprised that this is the decision now and not waiting. I had a source tell me that they heard this morning that there was a buyout, a reduced buyout, or a buyout discussion. Well, the buyout numbers are what they are. They're based on his performance. They're based on his record, which is black and white. He's got to be a game under 500 at the time, beginning with his second season, not the first year.
Yeah.
And he's still 2 games. Yeah, he's still 2 games above 500 now. So the buyout is the buyout based on the contract. So if there were discussions this morning about the buyout with Pittman and his camp, discussions for what? The only reason you would do that was to try to come to some compromise and get that thing reduced. And what I said yesterday and the time before when we were on after the Memphis game, the best thing you could possibly do here is to get everybody on the same page, a soft landing for everybody. Maybe you can get the buyout talked down and you're not stuck with the 9+ million. Whereas if you waited a few more weeks to see if Arkansas kept losing, which they probably would have, but it's not even 3 weeks. You've got a bye week, then you've got Tennessee, and then you'd have another couple of weeks with games where you'd need to lose those. So another month to wait. Would that have hurt anything? I think optics-wise, yes, because if you can reduce it in a negotiation, let's see if we get details and terms on that. In terms of did they get something resolved where it's not 9+ million and there's a softer landing for the Arkansas side of things with how much they spent to get him out. And then for Pittman to, agree to it, obviously understanding the writings on the wall, he's done here. There was a sorely needed change of leadership here. And it's not just about the defense. This is why we were talking yesterday. I even said, if I had to pick somebody, the most likely might be the defensive coordinator. I said, but in a sense, he'll be a patsy. Yeah. Not that they had just been horrible over there and that he's doing a good job, but for me, it's an overall thing. Even the offense, we're starting to see really how fragile it is. As a team, penalties, mistakes, timeouts at weird time, burning timeouts, or getting penalties out, coming back from a timeout. All the things that conspire to make you 7-19 in close games. And then for all four wheels to fall off yesterday, Blair, and that's what happened. When you get beat 56-13 on national television, go ahead and get that done at the top, and then go from there.
Yeah, it's just, but it happens so quickly. Let's bring up the graphic. This is how Pittman's era will end: 6 seasons, 32-34, 14-29 against the SEC. That was just his 5th non-conference loss yesterday, which is a little surprising. 6-25 against the top 25, 21-15 at home. That's not good. Obviously, 7-16 on the road. But I think the biggest thing, just the lack of comebacks. I mean, when Arkansas trailed, the record shows they didn't come back. They didn't win ball games. That's not good. So now we usher in Bobby Petrino, 14 years as a head coach. Obviously a winning record. Won at Western Kentucky. Had it going at Louisville, but his last season was a clunker as he went 2-10 and 2-8 and 0-7 in conference play, but then went to Missouri State, had some success, accepted the OC job with Barry Odom at UNLV, then a month later goes to Texas A&M, now at Arkansas, and of course everyone talks about his 4 years at Arkansas. Last time Arkansas won 10-plus games, 10-3, 11-2 those last two, but a lot has changed in college football in the 10 years since Bobby Petrino was in Fayetteville the first time.
Yeah, thank you for the graphics, by the way. It's good to walk down not only memory lane, but now this thing, you cue it up because it's your future, at least on an interim basis. Look, Bobby Petrino's been the head coach here. He knows the lay of the land. Yes, college football has changed. But one thing that hasn't changed is the majority of the fan base's love and passion for what Petrino did. And clearly the most successful coach when you look at his record in getting Arkansas to the only BCS bowl game during that era, before the playoff era, the only one ever, had the most success in those back-to-back seasons. And, year 2 is so his 8 wins. So in his last 3 seasons, nearly 30 wins, 29 wins.
Yeah.
No one's come close to any kind of success to that at Arkansas. Houston Nutt did a good job and was there longer, but nothing what Petrino did. So the fan base, he's endeared himself coming back as the OC. You remember how stirred up and excited the fan base was. So in a sense, you're winning your fan base over with the interim move. As we're still in September, you've made an interim move. You've made a change. So you're winning your fan base there. You got a guy that knows what it means to lead a team as the head coach. Yes. Had wild success here. We just talked about it. So all of that checks a lot of boxes. It's not to say that we're going to see a difference in the win-loss column moving forward. There's a lot of problems on that defensive side. And I would even argue on offense, you got some, you're lacking a leader at the quarterback spot, a clutch player. I'm just going to say it. You lack that. And again, Arkansas seems to shoot itself in the foot, especially in second halves. It was pretty much the entire game yesterday, but they have trouble scoring the ball even if they move it. And you're getting these great ball movement between the 20s, and then you start to break down. Penalties, big lost yardage plays, turnovers. How many interceptions have we seen thrown into the end zone? We saw one yesterday, right? So even though the game was academic at that point, it's a microcosm of what we've seen so much of. So I think there's question marks everywhere. I don't know that the fan base is in reality going to see the results right away for an interim coach. But if you see increased effort, increased buy-in on both sides or throughout, if you see certain things change, that it helps Bobby Petrino in his quest, because the press release today that I read says Petrino's not only the interim head coach, he's made it known he wants the job and he is a candidate. And there could be a case to be made that, is there really going to be a true blue national search, or is this the guy who's been in the wings and this is going to be his job? Because you probably, Blair, can get him on the cheap as a head coach relative to what you might have to do elsewhere. Again, a lot of built-in advantages because of his understanding at Arkansas, already being on campus the last 2 years, having been the head coach here. A lot of things where you can direct monies toward bolstering his staff to get better in other areas. And then NIL with all the other things. But who knows what the buyout, how that landed for Pittman. You got all these things that factor in. So this is it makes a lot of sense, certainly for interim. I said yesterday, we didn't go through all the points of why yet because we didn't know when things might land with Pittman getting fired. But that looking ahead as a permanent situation, I wasn't necessarily on board with it being Bobby Petrino. But I do understand the reasons why the university might move in that direction.
Yeah, I think it was obvious he was the only choice. The question that many will have is, because he was fired for cause the first go round, university rules, unless changed, and things can change, I'll admit that, you can't be rehired by the university if you're fired for cause.
That's right. But he got a waiver. He got a waiver just for this position that he's had.
So I imagine they got another waiver for this, and for him to be the head coach, that will require another waiver. But that's not to say they won't do it, because waivers have been granted before.
Yeah.
If you recall, a waiver was granted in the beginning that started the whole turmoil when Dorrell was hired as the director of football ops, because they made the hire before the deadline of the job closing. So that's something they'll work out behind the scenes, whether the national media like it or not. And be prepared, the national media will hammer Arkansas because they're naming Bobby the interim. They're an easy target. They're a pinata right now. So let's talk some candidates. How about that?
Sure.
Obviously, Petrino has the edge up on everybody because he gets an audition the remainder of the season. Leslie in the chat mentions Jeff Traylor at Texas San Antonio, who was an assistant here under Chad Morris. He's had success with the Roadrunners. Wouldn't be a bad hire. Has ties to Texas, which is an important recruiting area for Arkansas. But, I mean, who else out there, Kevin, that you can think of that would be a candidate?
I'm told that a couple of folks have already reached out behind the scenes, probably through third-party channels. I don't know about directly, but Dan Mullen, who had all that success at Mississippi State, didn't work out at Florida, now at UNLV. That's one that you would probably take a strong look at if, in fact, he's interested. The head coach at Sumrall at Tulane, who had success. I mean, he did a really good job in the Sun Belt at Troy. And then moved on to Tulane, has done some good things there. Another coach that has interest in this job. What about Rhett Lashley, a Northwest Arkansas guy? Shallow Christian, we know the years with Miles on at Arkansas.
An Arkansas graduate.
An Arkansas graduate. But I'm saying he's an Arkansas guy, even going back to his high school days. And, there's a lot of, with him and Miles on and, at SMU now, but those are just some names at the top, and a couple of, again, the first two I said, Mullen and Sumrall, expressing that they would be interested in this. And then you've got those names that are just out there, right? Like John Gruden, that always circle back. What color tie is John Gruden wearing today? Yes. People are going to say, make a run at Nick Saban. I mean, there's fanciful dreaming. There may be some stuff that's in the realm of possibility. Dan Mullen's a name that doesn't bother me. Some of these younger guys that are already showing success, you know how that can go. Look at Florida right now. How did it go bringing an up-and-comer up there, right? And we see the struggles there. So, I mean, that could be hit and miss. So anything can be at this point, including hanging on to Bobby Petrino as your permanent solution once this interim phase works through. And then you're also wondering, if you do decide to go Petrino, how much of the other avenues did you exhaust? How much time does that take? And does it make sense financially? And you have real belief that he's going to be able to get your program to the level that you expect it to be in the SEC? A lot of question marks. There's probably other candidates. Before we came on, I think you also had some names that caught your attention as maybe good candidates.
Yeah, I think Bryant Vincent, you might want to take a look at him at Louisiana Monroe.
Yeah.
He was the interim at UAB when Bill Clark retired, and many thought he was going to get that job. They went with Trent Dilfer instead. He goes to ULM, which has been a doormat for the last 15, 20 years, and they've actually won games, beat Arkansas State yesterday. They're undefeated on the
got them
season.
yesterday.
Yeah, they're undefeated. So, I mean, and that's unheard of. So he'll get snapped up. Blake Harrell, East Carolina, had a big win over Army, I think Thursday night. He's like 8-4. He's a defensive guy. Doesn't have a lot of head coaching experience. I think that's the big question too. And also Thomas Hammock at Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame last year.
Yeah.
I think Mike Gundy's name's going to come up, realistic or not. It just is because of the proximity. And I kind of wondered that if he might be a candidate, if he survived at Stillwater, maybe a more serious candidate and option. But you wonder too, money's going to play into this. Are you going to be able to get a sitting head coach, which is going to cost more than somebody who's a coordinator or a head coach at a lower level? A lot of variables. Plus, the market will also dictate because we don't know how many other jobs are going to come open.
That's right.
And, as we remember from the basketball search, Billy Clyde Gillespie seemed like a slam dunk for Arkansas. And then, boom, suddenly the Kentucky job opens up and he takes that and the search has to start over.
What's interesting about the timing of this as well?
Yes.
Are the comments of Hunter Yurachek last week
at
the Touchdown Club? Because you've got a head coach vacancy. And you just said to everybody, sound bites galore, that Arkansas is not situated to compete for a national championship, which is also saying we're not in a situation to compete for an SEC championship because with a playoff, if you're a top team in the SEC, you're going to be in the playoff. Top two
if you're
minimum,
competitive in the
probably
SEC.
More.
Yes.
So if you're saying we're not situated to really be a viable threat to win a national championship, you're saying we're not a viable threat at the top of the SEC as well. But now you've created a coaching search. It's the right thing to do. But the timing, I think, is also interesting only because we're not that far removed from those comments. Mm-hmm. And now you're going out, put your best foot forward saying, hey, here's how we're going to make NIL work. Here's how we're going to do this. Here's the support we have. Here's what we think we can do to be competitive initially and maybe even better than just competitive so that there's not a long rebuild. All these different things, but you said that. You can't undo it. You can't erase it. You can't take it back. You can appease people on the board of trustees with your words, which we heard he did.
2 weeks later.
But that's not public perception beyond the board of trustees that knows you. That's, you're out there trying to put your best foot forward as a program. And I'm not saying you can't overcome it. I'm just saying that's just one more thing that you're like, oh, you just said this, but you're trying to hire me. What do you think about, what are you really saying about me here?
Yeah.
So
first question everybody is going to ask, to themselves, can I win there? And the first question they ask you is, what's your NIL situation? And maybe the fact that it took 2 weeks to clarify statements that were made in a public setting, and you had to wait for a board of trustees member to ask you to clarify it 2 weeks later when there are numerous platforms to clarify your statement when your fan base is upset is bad. I think that's a very bad look, and that's 2 years in a row down there. The presentation is flopped, and now you've got to sell somebody on a head coach. You've got to even sell your own fan base that there's hope in this program.
Right.
Is he the one that is going to make this hire? There's some talk that he may not.
I heard a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about it on one of these shows, that I was told when a move's made, he's likely not going to have the final say or as much of an input. But timing's everything, because I then brought up and said, well, what if the firing, something happens sooner rather than later? You don't even get to the end of the year. He's still in place as your AD. Then what? And then they had the meeting with the board, apparently calmed them down. Everybody was safe. Everybody was supposedly safe at the end of the week, going into the weekend. And then Saturday happened where it looked like
everything changed.
Nobody wanted to be on that football field competing. It just looked that way. And you see camera shots on Sam Pittman throughout the game. He looks like a guy that's, thinking about what, where is he going to dinner? Or, I don't want to, I'm sure Sam was, anguished over how that game was going. But there's just a lack of fire, a lack of accountability, a lack of leadership. All of that starts at the top. It was a bad look. And so it had to happen. But now one of those questions a coach is going to ask is, okay, Hunter Yurchek, what do you think about your program? Did I heard what you said 2 weeks ago? Are you backpedaling on that? Is that what you really think? Because you said it, and you said it for everybody to hear. So again, don't want to overemphasize that, but don't be surprised if that's something that's bubbles up into these negotiations with whomever you're trying to get in here. How do you turn it around and say, well, that was then? People that write checks, they're excited now. They're motivated. This is going to be different than what I said 3 weeks ago. And maybe it took that combination of him saying that, and then whatever these results have been on the field as just, a 1, 2, 3, let's move on now and do it in late September. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah. I honestly think the money was ponied up for the buyout in the last 24 hours.
Wow.
Which, that's common. Now, whether they were trying to gather it prior to kickoff tomorrow, I don't know. But as you mentioned, timing is everything. I mean, Friday afternoon after the board meets, everybody's happy, everybody's on the same page, everything's good. And then the game happens, and just like the Memphis game, man, everybody's good going into that. Then the game happens. It's a Chinese fire drill at that point. So, timing is everything. And now with a coaching search, timing is even more critical because, we're almost to the halfway point of the season. We're not there yet. So you can have talks and backdoor communication with people, but it's just like recruiting. It's non-binding until somebody signs their name on the scholarship or the contract, and things can change. We don't know what else is going to open up. But, man, it sure seems like Bobby Petrino has a massive advantage over every other candidate. And let's be honest, he's got the support of the vast majority of this state. When he was announced as OC at the Duke basketball game, he and Pittman were in the box. Everybody wanted to see Bobby on the video board. Never saw it. But there's just the guy has captured the imagination of Arkansas. No question about it. And still holds it. And maybe even goes up a level after today.
Well, we'll see. I don't think you're wrong. I do think he has a big advantage until he doesn't. And that means if there's something hot that makes more sense and you get the folks that do write checks and you hope they're being wise in their judgment, there could be an option that is already known to them that they've got a line on, a beat on, or, they're just getting started. Either way, however, there may be something that it's not Bobby Petrino after the interim tag, and they feel that way. Or it could be, let's just see how the fan base reacts through this experiment the rest of the year. How do they react if they continue to lose? Because this looks like a bad football team, especially on defense. Mm-hmm. I don't care who the coach is. At some point, you don't have the Jimmies and Joes. You're not. So there's a lot of things they might be looking at, but to me, I don't think all the money was ponied up overnight. I think part of it was. I think after the Memphis loss, there was real unrest, and I think there were folks that signed checks that were getting checkbooks out, knowing that board of trustees meeting was happening. Your check. Knowing that you couldn't make a move right away because of that 4 games into the season, really giving yourself more peril with the transfer portal. And you've got the bye week coming up. Don't disturb that with Notre Dame coming in. Let's just see what happens with Notre Dame and ride it out a little bit. And then it became, okay, I had the checkbook out. Guess what? I'm adding another 0. Or it's a bigger number now. I can't wait. That kind of thing. I think it was building. I don't think it was okay, Notre Dame's the straw that broke the camel's back to open the checkbook. I think they were getting them out after Memphis. And I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back to make the numbers big enough to let's just get this finished with. And I think I trust my source that says they were, as of early this morning, still working on something to do with the buyout. The only reason you do that and have those conversations is to reduce it. Yeah. You're not going to offer more than what it takes to buy him out. And he's not going to be talking to you if he doesn't want to hear it and says, okay, yeah, fire me and buy me out. It's this number. That it sounds to me like they were really working on trying to shrink that down to let it help Arkansas, still help him somehow, whatever that looks like. And maybe we'll learn more about that as we move on. I'm sure we will at some point.
I don't think we'll hear something immediately because we all know how Jimmy Sexton operates. And he's not going to allow it be known that he had a client who gave anybody a deal because that's not how they work. Not to say it didn't happen, but they don't want that out there because then that's going to get used against him in negotiations in the future.
Well, it might get out there. Some things are leaked. The other thing is, and it may take a while. The other thing is if they've got some plans for Sam within the program and it's a kumbaya, they can announce that later is found out, whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know that they will. I mean, this wasn't an announcement, hey, I'm going to retire at the end of the season. That's probably what that would have maybe looked like if it was going to be that. So you're right. That may be hard to get details for a while, but I think they'll get out eventually. I think it's likely they'll get out at some point.
Oh, I agree. I think it eventually will come out, but it's
not
going
to come Sexton. You're right about that.
And then, speaking of Sexton, good Lord, he represents almost all the SEC coaches, a ton of college coaches.
Yeah, they're not done talking to him.
Yeah, you're not done talking to him, most likely. So, I mean, we're seeing it obviously in the chat. A lot of excitement. Let's go, Bobby Petrino. Bobby, a proven winner in the SEC. And let me bring up this graphic because I thought this was interesting. Arkansas in the SEC since 2012, which was the first season without Bobby Petrino.
Yeah.
A&M, Missouri joined the league. Look at that. Arkansas, 25%.
Ain't pretty.
Not pretty at all. Only 5 overall, plus 500 seasons, no 10-win seasons. And now you got Texas and Oklahoma in the league. So, I mean, it's not been a good run for Arkansas since he left. And of course, now the landscape has changed immensely with NIL and the transfer portal. But they're going to give it a shot. And if it works, it's kind of a slam dunk. But if it doesn't work, then where do you go?
Well, I think they buy themselves some time. Mm-hmm. I think he's a serious candidate simply because of the timing of this. You have the bye week. You're out of the 4-game deal with most of the players. Most of them have played 5. So getting in the portal, even though they doesn't make a ton of sense. They can't recapture the season. So you got some advantages there. And then you can see how the team responds to Petrino. You can see what kind of job he does. You can evaluate that and still, without holding him accountable for a ton of losses that may be on the way. Because, again, this is midstream. Yeah, he's got all that experience. But, I mean, it's just they don't personnel-wise, especially on defense. I know I'm repeating myself. They just don't have a lot there. So I don't know how it translates against this schedule in terms of actual wins and losses, but maybe you can learn about his leadership now as a head coach in this environment. See how much more competitive you are everywhere. See if you start cutting down on some of the mistakes and some of the self-inflicted wounds. See if you're better organized. One thing about Petrino, we know what those records were when he was in Arkansas. One of the things that really stood out to me, this time here, his teams did not lose games to teams they're supposed to beat. They didn't lose to mid-majors. They didn't lose to the teams in the league that they were favored to beat. I'm not saying it never happened. I'm saying it almost never happened. Yeah. And that's what you got to do. If you want to win 8, 9, 10 games, you got to win the games that you're predicted to win, that you're expected to win, or that it's even maybe fairly equal. You got to win most of those. And he did that. That. And so,
they improved each year under him. I mean, look at it. 5, 8, 10.
They got better
11.
every year.
Yeah.
They got those better. Are things that I remember. And not that some of those games weren't tight and competitive. It's the SEC. There aren't any weekends off.
No.
But at the same time, you've seen this parade of coaches since him losing games you shouldn't, losing to opponents you never dreamed of. I mean, it's been ugly. It's been ugly. Pittman had a 9-4 season in year 2, and it
Yeah.
just felt like the hot air balloon was about to go up and go out of the atmosphere, right?
Yep.
Out into space with success year after year. You just felt like maybe Arkansas was finally getting over the whatever, if you want to call it a curse after Petrino left, whatever it was. You felt like it was going to trend much, much better. And then it's been back to mediocre or worse.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost 4.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
He lost 8 games 2 years ago. Last year was salvaged late, and you got to 500. You won the Liberty Bowl, 7-6, and now this year looks like 2-10 the way it was going with Pittman. Seriously, you got your 2 wins: Alabama A&M, Arkansas State. Do you look down this schedule the way things are going and see a win? Tell me who it is. Who is it?
I have
Not
no
one.
idea.
I don't see one.
No.
I don't know that they're going to win another game with this change. That's my point. I don't know if there's enough there in the stables, but I'm interested to see how does the team respond. What are the differences? What can we immediately identify as improvement? Wins and losses be damned, and then go from there. But you're right. The fan base is sold on this guy, on this Bobby Petrino fellow.
Totally.
Based on the past results, living in the past, based on the overall success the guy's had, knowing he's a guru on offense. I mean, offensively, and I know yesterday was a bad day, since he's been at Arkansas, it's a top 10, top 5 offense, but has problems, again, scoring in the second half. We know what some of the problems are. Some of that's on him. It's his watch as well. But you still have enough confidence to think, okay, in an interim situation, maybe this guy can really make a difference here on out with 7 games to go. And then can he do enough to say, look, this should be my job moving forward, and here are the ways that it helps you out as a program to expedite success and maybe have more money to funnel in other areas that we need to have success. Again, I think you would get him probably at a reduced cost for various reasons. This is a huge opportunity to be back in the SEC as a head coach. I don't think he was ever planning on something like that happening or being possible. No. So this was fortuitous for him to go out and earn it again. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of comments in the chat that he's the guy. He'll put an end to the loafing. He knows when to take timeouts. No simple mistakes. And I do remember watching his teams practice. The attention to detail was amazing. And there was no element of the program that was touched that he did not sign off on.
Defense included.
Yeah.
Defense included.
Everything. Anything that touched that football program went through him. I mean, it is he runs the show, literally.
It seemed
everything.
Like it's amazing. It seemed like he was the coordinator for every unit.
Yeah.
He had an offensive coordinator by name. He had a defensive coordinator by name. He was the play caller. He was the offensive coordinator. He was the head coach. And I remember hearing in more than from one place that he was so dialed in and involved in the defensive part of it as well for the team. And so you're right. What you said, Blair, is exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, he coached the players, he coached the coaches, he coached the support staff, he coached the administration, he coached everything. I mean, it was amazing, and it was Arkansas's last run of success, and now he's back. We'll see if it can happen again. Some people want to know if strength and conditioning is part of the problem with Arkansas right now.
Hey,
makes you wonder.
It's fair to call out all of it. And look, how slow does this Arkansas team look, especially on defense?
Yeah.
And then when you're getting drugged, every time you do wrap up, you're getting carried another 3, 4, 5, 6 yards. I mean, it's everything's fair to blow up right now. Everything's fair to question. You want to do it within reason. You've made this big move. I think there are other moves on the way. Will it happen in the bye week? Maybe. Will they hold on to everything now that Pittman's out as is? I mean, that's also a possibility. I wouldn't. I think I would be mildly surprised if this is the only change.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Petrino has some other adjustments he makes that
Yeah.
he's allowed to
Staff
make as
wise.
interim.
Yes.
But I think too much turmoil and turnover and changing a whole lot up is probably not the best idea because you're still trying to get through a season, and that may be a bit much, especially if you're not sure this is the guy you're going to retain. So you might want to have, as bad as it is, not, you know, have too many public hangings like Pittman went through today. But I'll be surprised if there's not some other adjustment, even if subtle, on staff or whatever, where this isn't the only thing that's going to happen here.
Yeah. And if something happens, it may not be immediate. Um, uh, Good point on the strength and conditioning, but I mean, at this point, there's really not a lot. Now you can change things, but you're not gonna see. There's not enough season left really to see wholesale changes or benefits if you make a change because you're just too far in. At this point, you can't, like you said, you can't change too much because it doesn't work in a shortened football season.
Well,
So
for an example, you might give someone duties they haven't had already, and player,
yes,
you see a reason for a little bit of recourse here. I just don't think there's going to be wild,
yeah,
crazy stuff, but it could be some stuff that you tweak and put this guy
yes,
in charge of this now, and he's going to call this, and he's going to be
little
in charge of it.
tweaks. Yeah,
There may
little
be some of that
tweaks.
stuff, and we may hear about it. You'd think we would, if it happens at some point. I do think if you're gonna if Petrino has an idea already about some things he'd like to change because you're in a bye week, you might try to make some shifts and do some of that. Go ahead and do that now because you've got 2 weeks to get ready for the next opponent. It might make more sense to do that now, or you could say, okay, let's see what happens with Tennessee. You could do it at any time, really, if it's even subtle tweaks. But maybe being that it's a bye week, maybe there is more to come sooner rather than later too. We got to leave the
Yeah.
possibility that may be the case as well.
Well, and you've got to think he's probably got an idea about some things that he would like to change,
Yeah,
or just having been on the inside, and it's going to be easier for him to make those changes since he's been on the inside. It also strikes me what happened last time Arkansas went to Tennessee with the interim head coach.
yeah. What happened?
A
Say it.
shocking victory over number 4
That's right.
Tennessee in Johnny Major's first game back in Knoxville, which led to the Philip Fulmer era. Todd Wright
That
hit that game-winning field goal, and Joe
that's right.
Kynes got a huge win, and it's just
That was
never
the
easy.
Citadel season, baby.
Yeah,
That was
90,
by Jack
92.
Crow.
Yep.
They brought in
Danny
what would
Ford.
become the future head coach of Danny Ford.
Yeah.
So there is some symmetry here, just in terms of
Yeah.
no, Bobby Petrino's not a consultant, but he's been the offensive coordinator, a guy that's had wild success as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Ford of national championship at Clemson, a Hall of Fame coach. Yeah, and then you had that upset win with the interim coach in Kynes. Had the relationship with Danny Ford, and we saw what happened there. And Ford ends up getting that job. So let's see exactly what happens here. Does the interim end up being the head coach for good, or moving forward
Mm-hmm.
after getting through the next 7 games to finish out this season?
Yeah, it's
And
going to be fascinating.
at 2-3, if Bobby Petrino can eke out, let's just talk about the what ifs.
Okay.
If in these last 7 games, if he could eke out 4 wins, go 4-3, you finish 6-6 and you're bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Dare to dream. I mean, is there 4 wins out there that you can see based on what you've seen from this team? I can't go there, but they've got to change now. Who
Yeah.
knows what, who knows? I would say if I had to predict it now, probably not. But, 4-3 wouldn't shock the world. I mean, that's just one above 500. And it looks really good compared to these last 3 losses right now where you feel like you're not going to win again this year. So who knows?
Well, the one thing that I do recall from Petrino's first year, and granted it was a losing record, but each week you saw improvement.
No.
A little bit each week. They got better you could visibly see the team getting
Yeah.
better. If he can
But,
do that, that's going to create a lot of momentum for his
yeah.
candidacy and even make him more of a cult hero in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, he was a whisker away from being bowl eligible. That road game at Kentucky, Arkansas had a lead in that game. I don't know if you remember
Mm-hmm.
that. Kentucky
Yeah.
on their home field comes back, kind of a disappointing loss. The wheels kind of came off there late, but Arkansas had a chance to win that game. You do that instead of going 5-7, you're 6-6. You had the big win against LSU at the end of the year, right? Remember
Yeah.
that?
Mm-hmm.
What was that? The Miracle on Markham 2.0.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So you finished 5-7, but yeah, but Petrino's been gold. In that part of his career as a head coach, he was certainly gold at the college level. And it's not like it's been forever since he's been a head coach. You went through the history there. It's not been that long ago that he was doing it. He was at Missouri State the last stop and did some good things there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's plenty of reasons to be okay with it. For me, my personal opinion is I'd like to see a new direction. But then again, there's a lot of reasons why that would make sense if you stuck with Petrino beyond interim. And I could certainly will find ways to get behind that if that's, I won't have a choice if that's the decision. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm honest, and I think his best days are behind him. And I think that doesn't mean he still couldn't do a good job, but I just almost think that without taking a big gamble and a roll of the dice on somebody, if Arkansas can pony it up beyond this buyout to go get somebody that could also be a winner here, I almost am tempted to say, let's try something new. That's just
Yeah.
my take on it. I respect those that disagree. I respect a Bobby Petrino decision if that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's not all or nothing. To me, it's
Yeah.
like it's not where you have to dig your heels into one camp and can't leave open the option of, okay, maybe I can change my mind about this.
Yeah.
More than one thing can be true at once. The guy's a proven
True.
winner. He's a good coach. Maybe he could do it again. Maybe not.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're going to find out over the remainder of the season. Yeah, a lot of people in the chat think, hey, 7-game winning streak. I mean, who knows? But in a sense, it's like, what other play do you have?
no, right? For interim, you don't.
No.
This is the play for interim. I'm not talking about that decision. I'm talking about as
Yeah.
the permanent choice, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you made the right call here. This is the right call. You had it. I mean, it's right there in your deck of cards, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to fire a coach mid-season. A lot of times you've just got coordinators that don't have his level of success as a head coach at this level, and what we know about him, you don't necessarily have that. So it was,
Yeah.
if you're going to do this, you had an ace in your deck there for finishing the season out for sure. And again, I don't know how what record that actually translates to moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the other stuff about how much better they get. How do they respond? Do they win some games? Could they go 4-3? Someone's saying, yeah, why not win out 7-0? Let's get to 9-3 and see what nice bowl game we get. That kind of thing. No, I'm not expecting that at all. But I'm not expecting 4 wins. But I do think if you pick up 2 or 3 wins and you're competitive in other games and you show real progress, that's probably enough to make him a valid candidate, if not a choice, moving forward.
No question. And if it's successful and he can move the needle on NIL in this state. If he has success, I think it's possible.
The people that want to back this program with their checkbook, that certainly could be true. And who knows who some of these people are and what their thoughts are about Petrino.
Mm-hmm.
You know how some things go. Some people see as unforgivable, and that they can't be on board with. Those are things that you have to wonder about. But I do think the fact that Arkansas puts in the statement in the release today that Bobby Petrino is not only the interim coach, but he will be a candidate. He wants to be a candidate. I think there must have been enough rallying from the powers that be. I don't think Hunter Yurachek's allowed to put out press releases in a vacuum. I think he's got to have enough support from the people that he has to answer to with some of the things he's talking about, including not only moving on from Pittman, but who's going to step in for now and who's also going to be a candidate. So I think there must be enough positives toward Petrino within the folks that matter, given the history of, for his name to be prominent in terms of, yeah, he's not just the interim. He's a guy that's a candidate for the job. And we'll see what happens. But I think enough people have to be backing Juracek and whatever he's saying publicly with what they're talking about behind the scenes.
You almost wonder if this maybe buys him a little bit of time as well, because obviously, as we've talked about, he's come a little bit under fire right now. So maybe this gives him a little saving grace. And here, let
Talking
me,
about Juracek?
yeah, possibly. Here, let me bring up the schedule. So here's who we've got: Tennessee, A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State coming to town. Then you go to LSU, go to Texas, and then you close out with Missouri. And I have not updated this with the latest rankings. So you've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that are ranked in the remaining schedule. I mean, it's not going to be easy.
No, I mean, just based on the results I've seen,
Yeah.
not the end score results, but the results on the field, I don't see a win still.
Yeah.
Not saying they can't win games. I'm saying I can't call it. I can't look on that schedule. Oh, there's probably a win. Or that's a 50-50 shot. I'm not even there yet.
Oh, I don't think you're favored.
That's not
in
a knock
game.
on Petrino. It's a knock on what he inherits and what the mindset is of that team right now. Now, you might have guys respond. You might have guys that this is exactly the switch that need to be flipped. And it's enough to keep yourself into games, keep your team in games, even if it's not perfect, and maybe chances to win in the end. I mean, let's face it, outside of Notre Dame, Arkansas could have won Ole Miss and Memphis under the previous leadership. So, but I can't look at that and go, okay, I see a win there. I'm just not ready to do that yet.
Yeah, no, I think.
Do you have any? You look at that and say, "There's a win."
No, I mean, I don't think Arkansas is favored in any game the remainder of the season. I think Mississippi State comes in here as the favorite, and that may be the most winnable game you have left. Auburn, but I mean, with Arkansas, with the defensive performance we've seen from Arkansas the last 2 games, you have no confidence.
3 games. 3 games.
But oddly enough, the defense did come up with a stop against Ole Miss, and there was an opportunity.
2 stops in that game. You gave up 41 points. You stopped them twice.
Yeah.
They scored on every possession other than 2. You're right. The defense gave them a chance at the end, but it's just been bad defense 3 weeks in a row. And I wasn't crazy about the defense in the first 2 games, to be honest. I saw enough there to have real concerns. It's why I made the comment at the time. I've said it publicly. I've written about it. The offense has to stay healthy. It has to fire on all cylinders. It has to eliminate penalties, turnovers, and bad lost yardage plays once you get in the red zone, which we haven't seen them eliminate it. But it needed all of that to have a chance to win in the SEC in shootouts. You're going to have to outscore people in shootouts because defense, no. And that was before we saw the Ole Miss game, before Memphis, before Notre Dame. I was actually saying that because I could see it coming. Despite holding Alabama A&M to 7 points, and what did Arkansas State finish with? I don't even remember the score in that game right now, but one of those was a special teams touchdown. So, I even knew based on those performances, this was going to be a long year for the defense, and that the offense was going to have to click on all cylinders, stay healthy, and now you're looking to win shootouts. So, I don't know that we changed that narrative just because of this situation now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, you've got to win shootouts, and somehow you've got to keep your defense off the field as much as possible. That is a tall task.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if there are changes made on the defensive side.
Yeah.
To alleviate that.
We might see that. You wouldn't see something like that anytime before. You would see, if you're making a head coaching change, that would be the first thing we'd hear about. Everything after that will be a trickle-down effect. And again, Blair, I don't think it'll be major sweeping stuff, but I wouldn't, again, this bye week, I wouldn't be surprised if we've learned change of duties for guys or a firing even. I mean, I can't rule that out. I mean, there may be some more stuff to take a look at here as we move on through the week.
Yeah, I mean,
or in the early part of the week.
Yeah, you kind of wonder if there were some things on the table that, maybe you make a change to coordinator, buy yourself some time. I remember, was it Hatfield? Coach Broyles wanted him to change some coordinators, defensive side, I think it was, and he said no, and as a result, he got the boot. So that stuff's going to come out.
He was the new coach at Clemson at that time.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out over the next 5 days or so. I mean, that's going to come out eventually. But the bottom line is Arkansas announces a change in leadership. Sam Pittman is out. Bobby Petrino is the interim head coach. And it seems to me, judging by the reaction in the chat, people are excited that Bobby Petrino is leading the Razorback program once again. And what a wild, strange trip this has been since he left
Blair.
Originally.
Blair, he's coming down out of the booth. He's not going to head coach up in the booth, is he?
Oh, I wouldn't think so.
I mean, I don't think so either, but he wanted to be up there to call plays, and he is the play caller. But I think if you're the head coach, that's not a good – I think he's going to be on the sideline. That's my guess. I guess it seems the most likely way that this is handled. But it's going to be – I think fans, despite what's happened in recent games and despite how ugly it's been, all of a sudden you get to reboot your energy, your excitement, your anticipation, your hopes. They may be crushed if you go to Knoxville and get kicked around and it's the same old crap. You're going to be back to the drawing board in terms of how you feel. But right now you get 2 weeks to kind of soar with this. And you're right. There'll be some national folks that beat Arkansas up over this. And, you made him the interim and you're saying he's a candidate for the job. And you ran him out, back when and those kinds of things. I mean, Arkansas's had its share of, misstepping and getting beat up for it. And then when you even think as a fan base internally or in your state that you're doing something good and then, the national folks are going to kick you again and say, nah, that's a bad look too. There's all kinds of criticism. You're right. That may be, there's shade thrown on the program, but it's not like it was yesterday. I mean, it's been over a decade, right? It's nearly 15 years ago, going on 15. I mean, so it's still something that's, you can't hide from exactly. But there has been some time and distance, since that firing. And so, maybe Arkansas won't get beat up too much by the national folks. We'll see. Doesn't matter if it's a good choice and it works. You'll get past that, and they'll be talking about how good Arkansas football is again if that's what ends up happening, interim and then beyond.
Yeah, I mean the good news is they're going to be talking about Arkansas football, and the bad news is it's not going to be a positive. But what's the old adage? Hey, just get my name in the newspaper. Just make sure you spell it right. Any publicity is good publicity. So,
true.
Just unbelievable that here we are.
Getting in the comments.
Yeah, looking in the comments. Shout out to all the state employees who honored the public trust, didn't steal. Okay, that obviously is not a Bobby Petrino fan. Aaron says rankings mean nothing. Wonders why there wasn't that many board members at the game yesterday. I don't know who was there and who was not. I do know I saw Hunter behind Sam in the bench area in the first half. Did not see him in the second half. Hunter
was at basketball.
Yeah.
Hunter was at basketball practice on Friday.
Okay.
So I had a show I did earlier where I talked about all the former players that were at practice, recruits in town, that kind of thing. But Hunter Yurchek was at basketball practice. I know he was in there Friday. They practiced twice more on Saturday. I don't know if he had enough time to go in there in the afternoon practice, given what happened in that football game. And they were obviously rolling up their sleeves to make a coaching change. Hunter Yurchek, if anybody thinks that he's a lame duck AD or he's got plans to leave the program soon, in which I've heard scuttlebutt, maybe he's looking to go work at the SEC. You hear all kinds of stuff. Who knows what's real? But if you think he's not doing the job. You may not agree with the job, but he's everywhere right now, and that's the kind of presence that AD should have. Even if you don't want him in your program anymore, you'd be judging him even more harshly if he was nowhere to be found. So at least that part's there.
Yeah. Okay. I've updated the rankings just out of curiosity. 15 Tennessee, 6 A&M, 4 LSU, 9 Texas. You've got 3 top 10 opponents coming up. Granted, you got the bye week, but man, that is a tough stretch. And then next year, of course, going to the 9 conference games, and then a 10th against a Power 4 opponent. Utah's coming on the schedule. Still got to go to Notre Dame. I mean, it just means more, but it's going to be tough. I mean, it's a rebuilding job for somebody. Now, whether it's going to be Bobby
Yeah.
Petrino or someone else, but they're going to have their work cut out for them.
Yeah. And, Dan Mullen had success in this league at Mississippi State. Look where he won. Look where he had success. It wasn't like he was an average coach that got a really good job and won some games off the backs of players that were recruited before him. He did a really good job. Now, he didn't get it done in Florida, in Gainesville. And so he's a guy that if that's true that he's interested in the job, I think you got to take a serious look at that. There'll be people that say, no, I don't want him. Others that say I'd be okay with that. That's great. I do think that you take a look under the hood there. I think you have to because of the success he had at Mississippi State again in the SEC. And then some of these other younger guys, some of these guys having success as coaches. I think you got to take serious looks at candidates that have interest in this job. And again, we'll see what shakes out. We've spent a lot of time talking Bobby Petrino. We went through some names, kind of circled back a little bit, but I think some of these guys, let's not sleep on the field. And we're still early in the year. I mean, we're not even midway technically yet. There may be some other stuff that emerges that we're not talking about now. Of course there will be. Of course there'll be other candidates we're not talking about now. Of course there'll be, other teams and other schools that have needs for a head coach as well. And so you're, at least, and if you want to say it's an advantage to be out front with a vacancy this soon, maybe. I think again, some of the things Yurchek said about his own program, does it negate some of that advantage? Because now you've got to spend time proving some things to people who might be interested in your job. So, and then thinking, well, over here, they're not saying that about their program. They're the leadership who's going to be my boss isn't signaling that I'm stepping into maybe a possible problem. So those are things that you're, don't think. It's just like recruiting. Don't think some of these other schools are going to say, oh, you're going to go to Arkansas? You're going to go work over there where the AD doesn't believe in he may be on his way out. The next guy's going to want to bring his guy. All those things. That's why I think that Yurchek thinks he's staying put if he's in part of this decision, because it only convolutes matters if he's not with the next football hunt.
And then who's in charge? I mean, we saw what happened last time. Arkansas made a coaching hire with an interim AD. We know how that worked out. Not very well at all. Yeah. So, I mean, who's calling the shots?
Yeah, I mean, on the football field, as far as the football games go moving forward this year, it's Bobby Petrino.
Yeah,
and I think again, your fans are like, okay, I can I'm good with this. Let's see how they feel, though. Let's see what results are. Let's see how the team looks, win or lose. Again, all these things I keep saying and repeating is because I don't think we can take anything for granted when I look at this team.
Yeah.
Change of leadership's definitely needed. Does it impact wins and losses immediately in the way that you want it? I'm not sure about that. In fact, I tend to think we're in for a long season. And if Bobby Petrino again gets them to 6-6 into a bowl game, this has been a huge success. Oh, that is a huge success
if he gets them to a bowl game, I'm telling you right now, he's the guy. He'll be the guy. I mean, to win again. Where'd I put it? I mean, looking at that schedule, if he gets 4 wins, he's going to have to knock off 2 top 25 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, and if he beats Missouri, he may be elected governor because
Right there.
I mean, and that's the
I
other
like
thing
that line,
too.
Blair.
The Missouri aspect of this, Missouri, a kind of perennial doormat, has passed Arkansas with football success, and I think that rubs a lot of people the wrong way,
Absolutely.
and it's kind of embarrassing. And then they have, on top of that, not only have they had success in the SEC, but they have made you just come in here and taken your lunch money, uh,
Yeah,
stolen your car,
they've
your
owned the
girlfriend.
series.
Yeah, I mean, they have
They've owned the
dominated that
series.
series.
They've
Yeah,
owned the series, and that's one of your permanent opponents. So you're not going to be able to
yeah.
run and hide any single season unless
No.
they eventually change that. The other thing here is you talk about Petrino. One thing we haven't said is, what if it's already baked in? What if they already know this is who they're going to hire,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they
that's a
and
possibility.
or they believe it, and that's why they were able to go ahead and live with the buyout because they're getting something, they're getting a deal here somehow, and
Mm-hmm.
when you look at all of it together, I can't rule that out. Other than that's pretty risky if this thing doesn't look a whole lot better through the rest of the year, unless they just say, "Look, we're not going to hold anything against you on this season. We believe on you moving forward. Get it fixed." I mean, you can't
Do what
rule
you got to
out
do.
the fact that the possibility, not fact, the
Yeah.
possibility, like this is baked in and it's his.
There's an
I can't rule
understanding.
it out, but I want to believe there's going to be a national search. I want to believe that they're not decided on this just yet, and that they're going to give him a fair chance, but also look and see what's out there. I think after the last decade plus since he's been the head coach, let's face it, the head coaching opportunities he had weren't the same as a level of job of Arkansas. Even Louisville, when he went back there, he did
Mm-hmm.
have success, but he also, faded there at the end, and had a bad season.
The
And I
one
think they
bad
were
season. Yeah, and it was really bad.
and it was really bad. He's also had question marks about his ability to stay at one place for very long and
Yeah.
maintain his success because of questions about recruiting. Now, NIL can help you there and can
Mm-hmm.
overcome some of that, except that Arkansas against the field, especially being in the SEC, as Hunter Yurchek pointed out to the world, they're behind. They're
Yeah.
behind in overall budget. And NIL, they're not able to be as creative as some other schools are willing to be. And so, again, I mean, I'm not saying that that's he may have been spot on accurate, and then
Yeah.
you people say, well, I love that kind of candor. Let's be candid about what we have, but there's places and times to do that. Again,
Yes.
we don't want to overdo that. We're talking about where the direction's going, but he's part of where the direction's going. I mean,
Yeah.
his name's on the press release today. He's the guy that's talking about, I relieve Sam Pittman of his duties. Here's my quote about what we're doing, national search. Oh, by the way, Bobby Petrino, interim coach, and he's expressed interest and is a candidate for this
Yeah.
job. So all this is at the hands of Hunter Yurchek in terms of at least what the optics are publicly.
Yeah.
Obviously he's not the only one making decisions. People, that his job he has to look up to are involved in that. But at the same time, it's not like he's on the outside looking in either. His name's is stamped on this.
Okay. Seeing now we're starting to see some national reports come out. Um, Rhett Lashley allegedly a choice of the money people. Not surprising. Um, it's wanted me to log back into the account I already have, so I can't access the list. But I mean, we're going to hear a lot of names, obviously, and I'm still shocked, like you said, with the release to mention, okay, national search, which you've got to say. I mean, let's face it, messaging
You
has
do.
been somewhat of a problem for this athletic department. You've got to say national search or you'll get crushed. But to say your interim is also a candidate and expressed interest of the job, that part of the message is a little unusual.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I, I think, optics matter. and there's enough of the fan base. Let's play it the other way.
Yeah.
Let's play it the other way.
Okay.
Let's say that we just talked about the scenario where maybe it's already baked in and he's going to be the guy, and that's the way you talk about it. He's interim, but he's also a candidate. Let your fan base know now that could be happening because it's baked in that it is already, but they've got to have the optics of having a surge. Okay. The other flip of that is for the fans that are interested in Petrino, by saying that, you give them some hope that he'll be retained. And maybe you really are looking for something else, and but you want him to guide this thing home, and you're telling Petrino, yeah, we're going to give you, you're on audition here. I mean, you can play it multiple ways and give yourself some flexibility in decision making while also giving out the optics to make your fan base to tide them over for now. Once you get back on the field, some fans aren't going to be happy with anything but a win. Other fans will see how bad it's been, and close losses are still close losses. And then we're going to be counting up Petrino's close loss win-loss record at Arkansas at that point. So there's all kinds of ways this could possibly go, but I don't rule out it's already decided he's going to be the guy moving forward after the interim, and we just don't know it yet. So,
well,
can't take that off the table as a possibility.
Yeah. No, it's on there. Okay, now I've finally gotten into the article. Lashley allegedly has the support of Jerry Jones. Okay, we know what happened last time Jerry Jones pitched the SMU coach. And not saying Lashley would do that, but that didn't work out so well. Eric Morris at North Texas. He's done very well. Oklahoma State's he's going to be a hot name. Oklahoma State's probably going to go after him.
For sure.
There's going to be competition for him. Ryan Silverfield at Memphis beat you. His record is very good. Summerall, who we've mentioned, Jeff Traylor, who the chat mentioned, Deion Sanders. I just don't know. I don't know about that one.
I intentionally didn't go there. I threw out Saban. The only one Affleck name on the show, but we went to two. Okay, that's fine. It's in this article. How do you feel about that, Blair?
I don't know. We do know that Hunter did talk to him at one point about the job before he hired Pittman.
Deion, we know that Jerry Jones ponied up $35 million for him to be a Cowboy back in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean
Go ahead.
Hunter did interview him. Whether it was a serious interview or not, or to meet the required 3 interviews you must have to make a hire, we'll never know. And then he ended up going to Colorado.
Yeah.
They've got a losing record. We're seeing that they're not as good without a Travis Hunter and Shador and Shiloh. Boy, I don't know. It get a lot of publicity, but I don't know if that's going to win games. Malzahn's name, of course, is going to come up.
Yeah.
They consider Petrino the wildest of wild cards because he's 64, etc., blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I think he's kind of the odds-on favorite right now, depending, of course, on how the season plays out and if there's marked improvement in this team, which thus is selling hope. And the guy, we got to call it the way it is. He's a cult hero in the state of Arkansas.
Right, but see, but that if this is kind of one of the reasons why I say fresh start. It wasn't just, but the age thing is also part of that. The age thing's part, and I don't want to get into ageism and say old coaches can't coach because that's not true. It's not necessarily true. Odds-on favorite. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
Well, at this point in time.
But he does bring some built-in advantages. He does bring some built-in advantages that help him. Yeah. So there's that. And the Deion Sanders, I'm just not – that doesn't excite me. Deion – but, it would a lot of people. It certainly would stir things up in recruiting. The NIL money's going to have to be there. Jerry Jones, again, a guy that wrote a big check to make him a Cowboy. Would he back that move?
Well, supposedly he's back in Lashley. If he's back in Lashley, I don't think he backs.
Well,
Deion.
He could be on board for more than just one guy.
But his input,
if he's all in on one guy, and he's going to take his ball and go home if that guy doesn't get hired and not help, then I guess so. But He's
Yeah.
a big Dion guy. As a player, he was. I don't know how it stands now,
Yeah.
but I think, it's just an interesting dynamic and connection there.
A lot of question marks. Well, and then, the Jerry factor and other booster factors. If people pony
Yeah.
up money to help, they're most likely going to get a say in this.
They
So,
they don't they don't need to distract the chicken man. He's got
yeah.
basketball.
Yeah.
He needs to stay dialed in on that. I don't want any of this stuff seeping into the basketball program, Blair. I do not. And I don't think it will. I think Calipari commands what he commands.
Oh,
And this will be a situation where you're not going to be distracting the chicken man from his task at hand, which is to help his friend John Calipari build a title contender for basketball. But we're talking football, and there
mhm.
are other people that write checks, as you mentioned. Who are some of the names you have your eyes on in terms of who might be able to, impact this in a good way in the next hire?
Well, that's a great question. Oh, well, okay. Here's a question for: Can Arkansas afford financially to be a player in men's basketball like they are now with Cal, which does not come cheap, baseball and football? Do they have the money to be competitive in all three? Because I don't know if there's a school in the country that is competitive in all three.
Oh,
Because that
I mean, it's a good question.
takes a lot of money. So it's
Yeah,
almost like, do you pick and choose which sports you really want to be competitive in, and then national championship caliber, and then do
yeah.
you just really want to be that level in football, or you just want to be competitive? Because there's a huge difference.
Well, I think they'd like to figure out a pathway to being competitive in a top tier league team, not just
Yeah.
all middle tier at best. They'd like to move
Hmm.
just past the middle and be a kind of program that maybe once or twice, maybe even three times in a decade, they can be in the conversation, maybe more for getting in the playoffs as they continue to expand that. Why
Hmm.
not? But I don't see a pathway as long as John Calipari's the head coach of basketball at this school that there's going to be a shift from whoever's helping him to funnel that to football. I just don't see
Yeah.
that. It's Don
No.
Tyson is the one writing most of that, I think, and I just don't. They're friends that have been for decades, and I just don't think that's. I don't think that's going to become a thing, and I don't think Van Horn. There's going to be slippage in terms of his program, but I do think though there are questions about overall monies. The operating budget's a lot less than a lot of SEC schools when you look at just the
Hmm.
athletic department as a whole. Hunter Yurchek told us so we know it's
Yeah.
true.
Hmm.
We already thought that, right? But he
Yeah.
was throwing numbers out there. What was Arkansas is operating around 180 million? Some of these other schools 300. Well, you're
Yep.
about half that based on those numbers. So yeah, there's a problem there. There's a problem. The revenue share. Football's going to get the vast majority of that. We already knew that.
Hmm.
I don't think you're going to take away though from what basketball is going to get for Calipari to help with football. That's just not going to
No.
be a thing. And if it
No.
is, this is going to that's
That's not going to
you're
end well.
it's just not going to happen. I don't even want to
No.
entertain it because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not wishful thinking. I just don't see a way that gets diminished. And I think baseball is going to get it's I think
Their share.
baseball is strong enough, good enough, and it's a contender, and you want that national title
Hmm.
eventually, finally, after being as strong as you've been in baseball. But I also don't think football takes a back seat to the other ones in terms of that you just resolve yourself to saying, okay, we're never going to be in a position to compete. So let's just only focus on basketball and baseball. I don't think that either. And I think this firing coming where it does kind
Yeah.
of signals we need to turn a corner here. We need to really elevate this thing and hope we make the right calls and right decisions to affect that. But I don't think they're laying down because if they were, I think they'd just finish this season out and be ho hum about this move.
Yeah.
If anything, they've sent a flare up. Yeah, we understand how serious this has gotten. We need to take the next step and hopefully turn things around. And I think money's going to be part of that equation, Blair. I think they're going to be serious about it. Again, I don't think it's going to take away from basketball or baseball.
I go back to the talking about NIL and the money, because granted, I think that's the one thing we've learned over the last 2.5 weeks from the Little Rock comments to the Board of Trustees comments. They've got to step up the money. And I go back to a board of trustees meeting when they had their retreat in Morrilton back in August of 24, when they were taught, when Hunter and some others briefed them on NIL, and the quotes were, "We have a top 20 athletic program in the old world. Good, let's be top 5 in the new world. Um, let's go raise more money than anyone else. Let's win. Let's be a champion of the new era. Let's figure out the rules and how to compete." And really, it sounds like nothing's changed since then. Now, maybe things are changing now, but their declaration, "Oh, we can go out and be top 5," hasn't happened. So maybe now, finally, this is what it's taken to get everybody aligned, which is something they talked about Friday, getting all the leadership aligned and move forward. But still, they can be aligned. But now the hard part is getting the money to elevate football.
Yeah, you got to get somebody that this is what Frank broils. He's not walking through that door.
No,
but this is why he set a standard that is really hard to match or come close to matching with the way that he was able to raise funds and monies. And of course, it's a different era now than when he did it, obviously. But by the way, you've done a really good job with graphics and bringing stuff up that's poignant that we need to talk about. I appreciate it. And I like you digging and getting some of these things like what you just brought, back from, what was that, a year ago, a couple of years ago, what the talking points were, because, not that we're in a position to hold anybody accountable, but it's certainly good to examine these things. What are you saying as a program? What did you just say as a program? What have you done as a reflection of what you've said? Those kinds of things matter. And I think, words are cheap. Actions speak louder than those words, right? And you have limitations. Raising money is a big, big part of like I always say, at the end of the day, that's what this is really about. Recruiting, paying a coach. And you're not going to get there without the folks that have the power and the money to pull it up and make these things happen. And they got to feel motivated. They got to feel like you're going in the right direction. That's why it's important that Yurachek did, answer to the right people based on what he said a couple of weeks ago, where they feel like, he's the right steward right now. I mean, you and I aren't signing any checks, so we don't get to make those calls. We just talk about it. So whether you think he's the guy or not, and that's maybe a bigger talking point we can expand to on another day, you're a check. But for now, he's somewhere up. If he ain't driving, he's riding shotgun. He's up there in the front seat somewhere right now because his name's on the announcement today. I know people could say, well, that's kind of flimsy, but at the same time, it would be weird if he wasn't in the room for some of this decision making, because he is the acting AD. And anytime there would be a change after you made let's say a hire, but you want to run Yurachek out as well as part of this ongoing process, it gets muddied up if he's still the AD, because anybody else you bring in is going to want to have their own coach. They're not going to want to be inheriting a new coach that's unproven for them. You could make that maybe work, but I'm just saying it's just like in professional sports, when you change GMs 2 weeks before the draft and you've made draft promises to players who may not fit into the plans of the new GM and the personnel and all these things that convolute matters. And so, we'll see. We'll see where Yurachek is in terms of his job security. Is he going to be the guy beyond this year and those kinds of things?
Yeah, it's crazy. You just looking at Twitter. The national media are starting to weigh in. Chris Childers, who's a co-host on Full Ride on Sirius XM, blasting Arkansas. Who do they think they are? Pittman got the job. Nobody else wanted it. Blah, blah, blah. Be careful what you wish for. There's going to be a lot of that in the national media, understandably, because they're not here and seeing what goes on. And I'm sure there will be a lot of that on the SEC network as well. And and that's understandable because they interact with those people on a limited basis and they like them. And I get it. It's even for the beat writers every day who are with the coach, it's tough when the coach gets fired because you have a personal relationship with them, but this is business. So
let's walk it back. Let's walk it back. I remember when John Pelfrey was the head coach of the basketball program.
Yeah.
He was one of the unforgettables with Kentucky under Rick Pitino. But he was also one of the coaches under the Billy Donovan coaching tree, who's a Hall of Famer, had all that success making
Yeah.
Florida a basketball power. And when Arkansas did the right thing and ran off this guy who was going in the wrong direction with the program after 4 years, Billy Donovan goes to the media and says, who does Arkansas think it is?
Yeah.
Here's a guy that took the job when no one else wanted it. Who do they think they are? He's an up-and-comer. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute. As I recall, this is a proud basketball program for decades.
Yeah.
Nolan Richardson, hello? Eddie Sutton. You don't, guys that are voicing like that, I just pay no attention to that.
Well,
and it was obviously the right move because every coach that came after John Pelphrey did much better than he did.
Yeah.
In their time at Arkansas.
Billy's also
it's an
defending
example
his
of
guy.
Take it with a grain of salt, what some of these guys say.
Yeah, I mean, Billy was defending his guy, but I mean, yeah, the pedigree, Pitino, Donovan, Sutton. I mean, 3 Hall of Famers. We saw what the results were. I mean, it was just.
Yeah, but those guys weren't walking through the door to hold his hand. He was the head coach. And so you defend his guy, but that's the point you're making about some of these national guys.
Yeah.
Some of them or even local. They get to know the coach. They like the coach. It's not about that. And to sit here and act like Arkansas's program wasn't valid under Petrino, the guy you just made the interim, it's weird to swerve around that to take shots at Arkansas for making this move with a guy that's in year 6. It's not like he's in year 2 and off to a bad start, or year 3 after going 9-4 the year before. Again, I use the Donovan example as you give all the word salad in support of something, but what does the eye test tell you? What's actually happening that matters? And Sam's a great guy. I mean, turn on that damn jukebox. Let's go have a cold beer, whatever. Cold beverage. I mean, he's a guy that you want to hang out when you're down in Hot Springs. You hope to bump into him and, pop a few cold ones with him. But, this is a regime that its time had come. The sooner the better, in my opinion. I thought it last year. I said as much last year. Yeah. I thought that should have been it. And they kept him.
Yeah, I mean, where do you see 14-29 in SEC? I mean, and then just the total lack of comebacks. I mean, if you're not winning at halftime, I mean, it's just.
And look,
I mean, it's like they didn't watch the game yesterday.
Well, the other thing is, a lot of this criticism is going to be from these folks that look at Arkansas and look down on it and say,
"Yes,
what do you expect? You're Arkansas." Shit, Vanderbilt's ranked. Vanderbilt is an historic doormat. Arkansas's not even in that conversation. How? Yes. I mean, again, you're cherry picking data or cherry picking who you like, whatever. I mean, there's many ways you could point at this and say, yeah, don't accept not only mediocrity, but much worse than mediocrity, which is where it is right now. It's in the ditch, man. Yeah. What you saw yesterday wasn't one bad game. The defense has been awful all year, all kinds of problems. The same problems year in and year out in terms of why Arkansas can only win 6 games and can't win 7 or 8. Why they could only go 4-8 2 years ago instead of maybe getting 6 and 7. I mean, just saying it's the same stuff in this regime, regardless of what coordinators are coming and going, what personnel you bring to play. It's kind of the same stuff, and it looks like lack of accountability, lack of leadership, lack of direction, lack of plan, lack of organization, lack of, all right, we're good enough, regardless of other things that might happen, injuries, not having the best recruiting cycle, whatever, we're good enough as a staff that we're going to beat the teams we should beat every time out. You can count on that. That's Bobby Petrino again. There's just not a sense that this is heading in the right direction, no matter how you try to slice it and dice it and make excuses and cherry pick data. I just don't see it.
Well, traditionally, Arkansas has won with excellent coaching. Bottom line, you got to have excellent coaching. The facilities are top shelf in the SEC. You mentioned Vanderbilt. You mentioned Missouri. Similar situations, if you will, as far as in-state recruiting. Those 2 programs are winning. Arkansas is not. I would tell you that Arkansas has better facilities football-wise than either one of those schools.
Absolutely.
And with the portal now, there's no reason why Arkansas cannot be a player. Real quickly, Chris Vianney of The Athletic has given his program job report card on Arkansas, says it's a B job. So that's encouraging. That's some positive. On the field outlook, C minus, obviously, saw yesterday. Money situation, C plus, could be misleading. University stability, an A minus. Recent history tradition, a B, probably a little generous. And coaching candidate pool, A minus, which kind of gives you the impression that Arkansas should be able to make a quality hire.
Absolutely. You're an SEC program. You've had success in football. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's far removed, real sustained success, but you can do it. You've had some good years in the SEC. It's again not sustained and not consistent.
But you're in
And
the
you're strong in every
SEC.
other,
Yeah.
but you're strong in every other sport as well. It's not like you're
Yeah.
one of these schools in that's kind of over your head in just about every sport. Now,
Mm-hmm.
football is the biggest one and the toughest to do it. But Arkansas's got a proud history, man. There's opportunity if you get the right hire. Again, Petrino proved it. Petrino proved, and you had 8 wins, you had 10 wins, then you had 11. That's 3
Yep.
consecutive seasons of success. You can argue that 8-5. Well, what is that really? Except that you built on that, and you
Mm-hmm.
got the double-digit wins 2 years in a row after that. So there's at least even a proof of concept with him. Now it's ironic he's the interim coach now, and maybe we'll see the guy that gets the job. But there's and, Houston Nutt. I know the SEC had some down years with teams on probation. The Western Division back then,
Mm-hmm.
Bama was down, and Houston Nutt got Arkansas to a couple of SEC championships. Well, he got them to 1. I think Danny
Two.
Ford got them to 1.
Ford got him to 1.
Nutt
Houston
2
got
and
him to
Ford 1.
2.
They got a 3 total. That's right. And
Yeah.
so, I know they've been in the league so long now. When you look at that and go, yeah, that's not a real great selling point to the next coach that you can win here. But it's better than some other teams in the league that haven't done that as often or done it as much that Arkansas's even done that much.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not comparing yourself right now to the success that Lane Kiffin's having, for
Yeah.
example, at Ole Miss. But you're
Yeah.
saying we're the right guy away from being that good, if not better.
Yeah.
And, even since we've been in the SEC, we've had some moments where you could see the proof of concept.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right
it
there.
sucks that it's been so many years, but you can even look at Sam and say, dude won 9 games 4 years ago. You can win here.
Yeah. I mean, when it was a 12-team league, you won 48% of your conference games. You had 9 winning seasons, 6 winning conference seasons, made it to Atlanta 3 times. And since then, since Bobby Petrino left and Missouri and A&M came in, you've just won 25 of those games, 25% of those games. You've only been above 500 5 times, no 10-win seasons, 1 winning conference record, and now Texas and Oklahoma have come to the league. And the outlier was that 9-win season that Pittman had. So, I mean, we'll see what can happen, what Petrino can do, and what changes can be made. But I think, if anything, they're finally figuring out they've got to sell hope to this fan base.
Yeah, they're close to empty on that, buddy, coming off that Notre Dame loss. And so this, I mean, the fact that you didn't even wait till Monday and you went ahead and did this on Sunday, I think that's fine. I think that's better than waiting another day. Get those hope flickers back up and get them flaming. Get start a fire of excited fandom again. We'll see. The reality is going to be the reality once the rubber meets the road and this team plays games again. Blair, I want to thank you for doing this again with me. The
let me
special
ask you
editions
one
for
question.
football that we're doing, I really appreciate it.
Hey, let me ask this one question. There's a question in the chat for you. Do you think Kyle Winningham would leave Utah to come here?
I don't know. But that's another name that would be, he's had a kind of a rock. I don't know if the word Rocky's correct. He's been up and
consistent
down, but
though.
He has. I don't know. I mean, you don't know what someone's willing to do until you start talking money.
Yeah.
What it really show them the opportunity and how they can make the most of it. Why not? Why not?
Well, and there was some thought that he might retire at the end of last season. So age becomes a factor for him as well.
He's been around a while.
Yeah, and do you want to take over a rebuilding job? So,
Yeah. So
quickly, let me
we're,
scan the
we're,
chat before we sign off. A lot of folks really pimp. Thank you, Mr. Bloodline, for the nice comments. Uh, a lot of Petrino, a lot of Indiana's good. Why can Arkansas not be good? That's a very valid
yeah.
point. You're in the
Another one.
right conference. As hard as it is, you're in the right place to elevate your program.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are all good points. I'm glad folks got engaged in the chat. Sounds like it's a lot of excitement with Petrino for now. That's a good thing because that's who you got for the
Yeah.
next 7 games, unless something really crazy happens and you've got to get an interim in for the interim.
Oh,
Blair,
Lord.
speaking of which, again, thank you. We're an hour and a half in. We're going to sign off now. HogvilleNET YouTube live. This was a live episode. It's another special edition. I guess we can keep having special editions as long as there's breaking news that's relevant.
Yep.
But
We'll
until
be
next
here.
time, Blair, thank you. Thank everybody that tuned in. We'll see you soon.